Overwhelming. That's the best word to describe this movie. Hello everybody, I'm Jack Murphy, and welcome to this historical review of Christopher Nolan's new biopic. We are History City, and this is our show, Lights, Camera, History, where we grade historical movies based on inaccuracies. Warning, some spoilers are ahead.
It's happening, isn't it?
We recently released our own documentary on Oppenheimer, so we won't be getting into a lot of the background on him, so check that out if you want to know more about Oppenheimer as a person. Stick around for something fun at the end of this video. We have a little surprise to stir up some debate. There is a near zero chance you're going to hate this video.
Near zero.
All right, let's get into it.
And here we go.
The movie is written and directed by Christopher Nolan, based on the book American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. The movie began filming last January, and since Christopher Nolan has such a devoted fan base, sales of Oppenheimer books skyrocketed as a result. So a lot of his diehard fans, historians, and even casual fans have high expectations. To credit Nolan with something I appreciate as a fan of history and cinema, he didn't dumb anything down. He trusts the audience to understand a lot of what's going on. Sure, there are some visual aids like marbles in the jar to represent the amount of plutonium that has been enriched in Oak Ridge, but that's only one of the few times he does something like this. I say this jokingly, but I wish Nolan would have put little name tags on the characters so we could keep all of these people straight. Although we will get into some of what we thought of it as a film, this video's goal is to take a look at the historical accuracy of the film. The cast in the movie is crazy. I can't think of another movie that has this many notable actors in one project. Instead of listing them, here's a screen grab for the sake of time. I think everybody that watched this movie is going to recognize a lot of people doing really small parts. This was a really fun aspect of the movie, guessing who certain actors are as they're turning around. It's impressive that the Trinity test was not CGI. I couldn't really find out if they exposed the actors to the shockwave. I doubt it though. If anybody has an inside scoop, let us know. Overall, the movie's very dense and dialogue-driven, which might alienate some people. It's very quick, loud, and manages a lot of little plots along with one big one. This would have made a great miniseries. In a miniseries, they could have fleshed out more of the characters and smaller plot points, maybe even getting into more of the science. The sound of the movie is something I was worried about going in, although not as bad as Tenet.
Within seconds.
I wish Nolan would sometimes let the scene speak for itself, although it depends on what theater and where you sit. The only line I couldn't hear was the last one. I understand if you had a far worse experience. This is one of Nolan's movies in which he has waged war on your eardrums.
There's no hiding from this sun.
Let's roll through some quick inaccuracies or plot points that were incomplete. Most of these that we're going to talk about weren't really all that bad. In all fairness, just about everything you're going to hear is really just us nitpicking. Oppenheimer didn't have just one student to start out. He had lectures to give at 2 universities, so he was quite busy. I think this was just to show his growth as a teacher. It wasn't just a scientist, David Hill, who testified against Strauss's confirmation hearing. The key scientist was David Inglis. He was the one who said he was vindictive against Oppenheimer. There's no chance his wife did not hear or see the blast. It was heard up to 280 miles away. But taking the sheets off the clothesline is always a good idea anyway. You just want to do that before a nuclear blast. That's good advice you can always take to the bank. Sadly, Einstein was not consulted on the calculations about a chain reaction. Einstein would not have been the best physicist to consult anyway. I'm also going to guess he didn't want to have anything to do with the bomb.
How could you possibly know that?
Secretary of War Henry Stimson didn't actually honeymoon in Kyoto. The decision on where to drop it was far more nuanced than just some guys sitting around making a top 10 list. Without getting too specific, Edward Teller should have been portrayed with a more antagonistic punch. He was a key reason why Oppenheimer lost his security clearance. When asked in one of the hearings about Oppenheimer being a security risk, the transcripts show his answer as the following. In a great number of cases I've seen Dr. Oppenheimer act, I understand that Dr. Oppenheimer acted in a way which for me was exceedingly hard to understand. I thoroughly disagreed with him in numerous issues, and his actions frankly appeared to me confused and complicated. To this extent, I feel that I would like to see the vital interest of this country in hands which I understand better and therefore trust more. In this very limited sense, I would like to express a feeling that I would feel personally more secure if public matters would rest in other hands. From what I remember, this is exactly what Teller said in the movie. In a lot of his testimony, Teller pretty much helped the government, which was not just straws, crucify him publicly. Early on after Trinity, Oppenheimer was not the biggest supporter of the H-bomb. But once he recognized it was feasible, it was too, and I quote, technically sweet not to develop. He was smart enough to know that the U.S. was in an arms race with the Soviet Union. Let's see what's next.
What's next?
The main criticism we have for this movie is that the movie just takes on too much. There are elements of Oppenheimer's life that were either glossed over, that need more explaining, or were condensed down into a single piece of dialogue. A great example of this is when Emily Blunt's character doesn't answer her crying baby, instead opting to drink. This represented a far more complicated aspect of Oppenheimer's life that happened a few times when his wife Kitty would either try to get someone else to watch her baby or just be very distant to those who were close to her. This did happen during his Berkeley days, though. It was mostly because Kitty was going through some medical issues. The way this is depicted is more of what happened after their second child. Tony was born at Los Alamos. She tried to get another wife at Los Alamos to just take her. One scene that just felt out of place and is just ridiculous is the bedroom scene, when Tatlock and Oppenheimer are being intimate. They take a break and she brings him a book and he happens to read the Destroyer of Worlds quote. It's hard to describe, but it just seemed silly. Another little plot that is glossed over is the apple poisoning. Although it didn't go down like that, there was far more happening to Oppenheimer at the time, and the school and his father would agree to send him to a professional. His depression and other mental issues were diagnosed as sexual frustration, and he was prescribed a lady of the night, if you will, but nobody knows what became of that apple. It was something he admitted to another student doing, although I'm sure it was for creative reasons. Niels Bohr was not around or involved in this incident. The intended target was Patrick Blackett. The movie does get some really interesting things right. There was a conversation that really stood out as a great historical commentary on Nolan's part. Although I can't remember which character it was, I think it was Josh Hartnett's character, Ernest Lawrence. And he was saying that Oppenheimer wanted the project because it would make him somebody among scientists. And although I'm paraphrasing it, it would allow him to accomplish something as a physicist. Oppenheimer was well aware the Manhattan Project would give him notoriety, and from that moment forward, he would do everything he could to prove his loyalty to the project. I really like the way General Groves is depicted. He had a great working relationship with Oppenheimer. He was very bombastic and could sometimes get under people's skin. He was also very bright, something Oppenheimer recognized early on. In fact, one of the reasons Oppenheimer got the job is because he spoke to Groves like a scientist, something Groves respected. The testimony dialogue is pretty much taken right from the historical record. It looked like some of it was out of order and a little condensed, but that's pretty cool. The relationship with Jean Tatlock was portrayed accurately. There are few historians who think she might have told Oppenheimer she was bisexual on the last night they spent together. We'll actually never know what they talked about that night. She was how she was portrayed, and the FBI was indeed following him even to her house. In what is one of the little-known aspects of the Trinity test, Nolan does a great job of portraying the thunderstorm that delayed the test a few hours. It added a lot of tension. Nolan even gets right the distance they had people from the bomb. A lot of you guys are debating in our documentary about whether he was a communist or not. He clearly joined the party. He donated $1,000 every year out of his $20,000 salary from the universities. His friends were communists. He went to meetings, recruited students and faculty, and even went to events. His beliefs, however, are far more complicated. At the time, he viewed himself as a New Deal Democrat. He may or may not have been a true communist, But he was, at the end of the day, a loyal American that delivered the bomb to the United States government in a quest to help aid the war effort. The idea he was a communist haunted him for the rest of his life. According to his FBI files, agents followed him off and on for years, even on some vacations. His brother, on the other hand, was, without dispute, a communist. It was kind of an interesting moment when someone told Iron Man which senators voted against his nomination. The junior senator from Massachusetts, a guy named John F. Kennedy. I got the impression Nolan was making a point about something. For the final grade, based on comparing the weight of our nitpicking inaccuracies and all the interesting stuff, we'd have to give this movie an A-. Although the movie is dense, it sticks to not only the facts, but the weight of history. All right, are you guys ready for the surprise?
Detonator charge.
Okay, so we're going to have a little fun here. I enjoyed reading everybody's top 5 Christopher Nolan films in another video. We here at History City have our own top 5 favorite Nolan films. What are yours? If you get the same list as us, which we'll show the envelope on our Twitter account with a dated newspaper,
I'm a man of my word.
we'll be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card. The first to match ours wins. Here are the 12 to choose from. So comment down below and maybe you could win. We know Nolan likes to do time-bend storylines and all sorts of crazy ideas. Does this picture mean that in Oppenheimer, this scene takes place in a parallel universe where there are already 50 states? Which can only mean, in the depths of a cosmic whirlpool where stars morphed into enigmatic dancers, time twisted like a kaleidoscope. In this maddening maelstrom, seconds stretched into eons, and mere moments became boundless epic. Within this chaos, the paradoxes danced a macabre waltz. Future selves confronting past echoes, events both never born and long dead, coalescing into a tumultuous symphony of existence. Reality fractured like a shattered